Number 8. Afghanistan Gold Horde. In the early 1970s, an art restorer named Vladimir Prokofyevich Bury was working in Afghanistan to preserve ancient murals for museums. While he was there, he was approached by an archaeologist named Zafar Kakimov, who asked him to help save a priceless cache of riches before it fell into the hands of the Taliban. While excavating in the ancient city of Bactria, Kakimov discovered multiple undisturbed graves. When they opened the first grave, they found 2,000 pieces of gold jewelry and the skeleton of a girl. He and his team had stumbled upon a royal burial. Kakimov realized he'd found something amazing that needed to be protected. Rumors spread throughout the country of the treasures, and experts had to move quickly to save the items before someone tried to steal them. In total, 6 graves were found inside, and more than 20,000 pieces of gold jewelry along with them. 5 of the bodies were females, and the 6th body was a male warrior. But removing the items was a challenge. If anyone knew what they had found, they would be in trouble. When a Russian who had been helping with the excavation started acting suspiciously, authorities did a little digging of their own, and they were shocked to discover he had stolen a number of the items and hidden them under the mattress in his hotel room. While the police dealt with the thief, archaeologists continued their work, but just as they were about to open up a 7th grave, war broke out in Afghanistan, putting the entire operation and the treasures in jeopardy. The only way to save the priceless items was to pack them in wooden chests, load them into a truck, and hide them under all the other equipment and tents. They headed for the safety of Kabul, all the way worrying that thieves who had heard about the discovery might be waiting for them on the side of the road to steal their treasures. To make things worse, the truck they were in stalled multiple times during the trip. As they neared the city, armed soldiers stopped their truck, demanding to know where Kakimov and Bury were going. Telling them only that they were archaeologists, the men held their breath, watching as the soldiers began to dig through the contents of the truck. Luckily, they gave up before they got to the precious items, estimated to be worth up to $2 million. The men became relic hunting heroes for saving the historical objects. Number 7. Crusader Sword. Shlomi Katzin didn't really expect to find anything when he went diving off the Israeli coastal plain, especially not a priceless treasure. He first spotted something when he went to explore the natural coves around the Carmel coast. He was amazed when he discovered ancient artifacts that had been hidden in the sand for centuries. He'd found a 3-foot-long blade with a foot-long hilt. Buried alongside the sword were stone and metal anchors and pottery fragments. Worried the treasures would be stolen or lost again, Katzin rushed the sword to shore, but there's where the story took a drastic turn. After contacting the head of Israel's antiquities authorities, he was stunned when they told him the items were from the 11th century Crusades. Even though the sword was covered in mollusks and other sea life, it was preserved rather well. Experts identified it as a weapon that once belonged to a Crusader knight. The area's natural coves were once a popular place for ships to wait out harsh weather and storms. Even to this day, more treasures are being unearthed as the sands shift. Multiple discoveries show that ships sought shelter there as early as the late Bronze Age, making it even more important for experts to chart, catalog, and preserve these long-lost antiquities before they disappear with the movement of the sand. Number 6. Medieval Zombies. When researchers were examining a collection of centuries-old human bones in England, they were startled when they came across signs of mutilation. The study revealed that some people in medieval Yorkshire were terrified of the walking dead. Yes, like actual zombies. So to prevent people from turning into zombies, they chopped, smashed, and burned their skeletons to make sure they stayed in their graves. Historic England and the University of Southampton published research that may represent the first scientific evidence in England of attempts to prevent the dead from disturbing the living, still common in stories and legends in many parts of the world. You might think that cut marks found on bones that belong to adults, teenagers, and children would point to the macabre act of cannibalism, but experts were quick to determine that the markings were in the wrong place for the act of butchery. Still, of the 137 pieces of broken bones found in a pit in the village of Warren Percy, archaeologists believe that burn marks and cuts came from another shocking act. At the time the villagers died, locals believed the dead could escape from the graves and walk among the living. A total of 10 bodies were found, with the victims ranging in age from 2 to 50, and all with the same cut marks. In medieval times, people believed those who were cursed or otherwise evil posed a threat. Their solution was to dig up the skeletons, decapitate, and sometimes burn the bodies to prevent the dead from harming the living. In War and Percy, locals seem to have latched onto this strange belief, mutilating and then burying their dead far from the village in the hopes of saving themselves from undead attacks. After archaeologists analyzed the victims' teeth, they concluded the dead were all villagers from the same town. At one time, War and Percy was a bustling village, but by the 16th century, it was completely abandoned. No one knows exactly why the residents of War and Percy treated their fellow villagers this way. Maybe it was superstition. Maybe it was a case of mob mentality or fear of the unknown. Whatever the reason, some of the local residents met a sad fate, one with seemingly sinister motivations. Why do you think the people of the village feared the dead coming back to life so much? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Number 5. Modern descendants of Ice Age mummy. A recent discovery revealed a modern-day connection to a man who lived between 3350 and 3100 BC. A rare genetic chromosome found in Europe's oldest natural mummy has shocked experts. After studying the 5,300-year-old body of Ötzi the Iceman, an ancient man discovered in the Italian Alps in 1991, scientists have found the Neanderthal has living relatives. That's right. In a bit of modern-day sleuthing and some careful research, scientists have found a rare gene that ties the Iceman to people living today. The gene is passed down through the family tree, showing up in the DNA of men only. But when a team of Austrian forensic researchers were studying the genetic makeup of local residents, they didn't expect to find that some of the men in their study were genetically connected to a mummy that had been frozen in a melting glacier for thousands of years. The story for Ötzi began in 1991, when 2 German tourists discovered the Ice Age mummy in the Ötztal Mountains in the Central Alps. After several days of extensive excavation, authorities removed the body from the ice and took it away for testing. Ötzi was incredibly well preserved from being in the ice for so long. Radiocarbon dating is what connected the ancient man to modern times. We can only imagine how the study participants might react to being told they were descendants of an Ice Age mummy. Number 4. Nobleman's tomb in Egypt. An amazing recent discovery in Egypt revealed a stunning collection of priceless funerary artifacts that once belonged to a nobleman. The 3,500-year-old tomb was found in Luxor's West Bank in the Dra Abul Naga necropolis. After removing almost 1,500 feet of debris, a team of archaeologists unearthed the tomb, and inside, they found an open court that led to a rectangular hall and a corridor that emptied into an inner chamber. Not all the treasures were hidden behind closed doors, though. A decorated wooden coffin sat in the middle of the main hall, and corridors leading off from the main hall led to an inner chamber where more treasures awaited. Inside the hidden rooms, researchers found a sarcophagi collection dating to the 21st dynasty with linen-wrapped mummies, multiple carved Ushabti figurines, usually buried with the dead to help them in the afterlife. Clay pots and wooden masks were also found. As experts work to preserve these important ties to Egypt's past, they are learning more about the funerary collection, believing the objects once belonged to a man named Usarhat, who was a local juror and considered a nobleman. He was one of many powerful men in the city who were responsible for law and order in their region. Noblemen were known to live in lush houses along the Nile, overseeing the land where the peasants worked, making them an important part of everyday life in ancient Egypt. Number 3. The Christian Crusaders. In the 11th to 13th centuries, during the medieval Crusades, Christian soldiers battled Muslims with the hopes of controlling the Holy Land of modern-day Israel. Many people died during these battles, something that has become clearer after the recent discovery of 2 mass graves in Lebanon. Archaeologists working near a Middle Eastern castle unearthed the remains of at least 25 soldiers who had been slaughtered. Researchers knew they had stumbled upon something historically important when they realized so many of the bones had wounds you would only get from battles. They did DNA testing of the men's teeth to determine that some were born in Europe. By studying isotopes in their bones, researchers could tell that they all died in the 13th century, and after consulting historical records, experts narrowed down exactly when they died. The bodies were found in a dried moat surrounding the ruins of St. Louis Castle, which had suffered through multiple attacks from the Crusaders since the 11th century. For more than a century, the invaders ruled the area, until multiple attacks in the 13th century destroyed the castle. Since carbon dating matches this time period, archaeologists think they finally uncovered the remains of soldiers who died at one of these battles. All of the bodies had brutal wounds, including stab and slice wounds from swords. Some looked like they'd been run down by horses, and others had blade wounds to the backs of their necks, which indicated they'd been beheaded after being captured. A belt found in the mass grave indicated the men came from the region near modern-day Belgium and France. If that's the case, the soldiers may have been buried by one of France's most famous kings, Louis IX, who was in the Holy Land on a crusade at the same time of the attack, and is one of the most celebrated rulers of his time, later canonized as a saint. It's rare to find any graves from this time period, so if researchers are right, they might have evidence of the brutality of ancient warfare that until now we could only read about in historical records. Number 2. Castle in the USA. Deep in the woods of Chesterfield, New Hampshire, is the ruins of a stone castle just waiting for you to explore its extravagant grounds. Even though the once former medieval castle is now crumbling, remnants of the grand staircase still remain. But who built the mysterious masterpiece, and what happened to it? When an eclectic costume designer from New York named Madame Antoinette Sherry first stepped foot on the gorgeous grounds deep in the New Hampshire countryside, she had a vision of building an extravagant summer home there. Her dream was to host lavish parties for her eccentric group of friends from the city. Originally working for Broadway shows, Madame Sherry got the idea to build a mansion after visiting a friend's home in Chesterfield, New Hampshire. One look at the sprawling farmland and lush forest gave her the idea. After consulting with designers, Sherry's castle was built, with Roman and French influences throughout. Putting her design talents to good use, she decorated the mansion with her own unique flair, draping animal furs on the floor, lining the walls with mirrors, and hanging massive portraits of famous people on the walls. But Madame Sherry didn't live in the mansion itself. When she did go inside, she kept herself confined to the third floor in private quarters that could only be accessed by a stone staircase, the same staircase that is the only surviving part of the unique building. After years of financial problems, the castle was burned to the ground by vandals in the 1960s. Madame Sherry lost everything. She ended up on public assistance before being put into a nursing home, where she died in 1965. Even though her life took a sad turn, the state continues to maintain the property, even if the only thing left to show where the castle once stood is the foundation, the chimneys, and the last remnants of the grand staircase. Number 1. Rare luxury in Cyprus tombs. Archaeologists excavating 2 Bronze Age tombs south of Turkey discovered clues about ancient trade that brought luxury goods to Cyprus. But that wasn't the only thing that they found at the Hala Sultan Teki monument. Known as one of the most important holy sites in the Islamic world, the historic mosque is surrounded by ancient architecture from around 1500 BC. But among the stunning buildings and religious monuments, researchers found 2 tombs containing 155 skeletons and 500 ancient artifacts dating to almost 3,000 years ago. Researchers had to comb through multiple archaeological layers to separate the shattered skeletons from the grave goods, but the painstaking work gave them a better picture of how these ancient people buried their dead, and the grave goods along with them. Among the objects were gold earrings and a golden tiara, all found on the skeleton of a 5-year-old child, leading experts to believe the tomb belonged to a family of the ruling elite. Rare gemstones, decorated vessels filled with wine and gold, silver and bronze artifacts all point them to once belonging to a family of great wealth. Clues that led them to believe the items were from trading with ancient people included scarab beetle amulets and fish bones from species that originated in the Nile Valley, showing connections to Egypt at the time when Queen Nefertiti ruled. As experts continue to study the remains, they are hoping to get a better understanding of how the 155 skeletons were connected and get insight into their cachet of luxury from distant lands. Thanks for watching. Which one of these archaeological discoveries did you find the most amazing? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like these. See you next time. Bye!